Okay. So what are some things I like? If you guys would just feel free to type in the chat. Um, if type in the chat, like what are some things that you might be interested in doing? Or actually, if somebody asks, can we speak? Yeah, we can go and speak. Yeah. So feel free to open up if you want to. So how might that enhance your day-to-day caregiving for your child if you were able to earn some extra income as a paid caregiver? Anybody want to speak out on that? Okay, let me look in the chat.
I don't mind speaking. Hi, my name is April. Um, Prior to having my son, I was a full-time teacher. And when God surprised us and blessed us with him, with his medical needs, I had to step away from full-time teaching. So it's been hard trying to find a way to supplement our family's income, living off, just my husband's salary. I am able to substitute teach when the schedule allows, when he's not sick or not having procedures. I try to sneak in and substitute teach when I can to help contribute some. But there's always that kind of looming financial burden of feeling like I'm not contributing, even though I know, caring for him is contributing and my priority. But, the strain of finances that comes with having a medically complex kiddo.
Okay. All right. Thank you for sharing. Let's see where April, actually, you typed in the chat as well. Reducing that stress and being able to contribute to the family. That's definitely what I hear often when I speak with parents. Often, what I hear oftentimes is where the parent has to either quit the job or they have a job and they lose the job because of the amount of time that they have to take of either taking care of the child. So they just basically become permanent caregivers at home. And so this program was created to actually try to help alleviate some of those burdens. So let's keep moving. All right. So some of the family challenges, and like April mentioned, the stress, the reducing the stress of contributing financially to the household. So some other challenges that a family may, endure are things like additional or high medical costs that are maybe not covered by whatever insurance you have, whether you have Medicaid or some private insurance. As she just mentioned, reduced employment opportunities, out of pocket expenses that you're actually paying out of your pocket, long term financial strain of just having to endure this forever and a day. And then limited access to financial support because you can't necessarily go and get a job, or if you have one, you may lose that job. And then lastly, the emotional stress leading to financial decisions. So these are challenges that children and families of medically fragile children face. And so this program, the Georgia Pediatric Program, looks to alleviate some of that. So what is GAPP? GAPP is, short for GA is Georgia, P is Pediatric Program. That's what it is. And so it's Medicaid's in-home nursing program designed to serve medically fragile children based on a medical necessity. And I'm going to repeat that again. Designed to serve medically fragile children. Okay. A lot of people ask, what is that? And I'll talk more about that in a little bit. So, the objective of this program is to provide skilled or personal care to medically fragile children under age 21. Okay. Also, the objective is to deliver quality physician ordered services tailored to each child's needs. So, the physician has to order this just as if they were to order your child's a prescription to take. It's no different. Without that physician's order, it's not going to happen. Okay. Lastly, the objective is to involve the physician and the caregivers in the child's care, whether it be the parent as the caregiver or whether it may be an actual nurse that's assisting to take care of that child. So again, what is the eligibility criteria? Um, yes, it is children under 21 do qualify. On this bullet point, I've actually highlighted typically medically fragile children ages 5 to 21. That's not to say that a child under age 5 could not qualify. But from what I've seen, oftentimes is let's just say if a child is maybe 1 or 2 years old, when those some of those applications go in, they get denied because it will be looked at as if the parent is going to have to take care of this child and change pampers and do the feeding, all of that as they would for a normal child. Okay. So, but the best chances of what I've seen typically if a child is at least age 5, um, and up to 20 years old and 11 months. So right before, so they basically they age out right before their 21st birthday. The child must have Medicaid, and Medicaid, is based off of a family's income that they have. Um, but also, if a family does not have Medicaid, the child may still qualify through the Katie Beckett waiver. And so this takes the family's income out of consideration. So whether if you're a low income family or a high income, in the middle income, it doesn't matter. It's not based off of the family's income. It's based off of the child's medical necessity. Also, the children that qualify are children with physician ordered services. Uh, I think I've pretty much mentioned that before. And then the children must be a resident of Georgia. And again, there is no income limit. Eligibility required criteria in regards to key requirements. The diagnosis and the current condition is really, really key. Um, some of the diagnoses, actually, I think my next slide is going to show you what some of those diagnoses are, uh, really will help determine if your child will qualify for this, and also the level of medical care required. Typically, children that would qualify for this service, it's if they weren't receiving this care at home, they might actually be receiving this care in a hospital or some type of institution. So, but the point of it is for them to get the care at home. Some of those diagnoses, some of the ones that pretty much I don't want to say if they're 100% to qualify, but for so far, most of these that I've seen and submitted, they get approved. If a child has cerebral palsy, spinal bifida, hydrocephalus, muscular dystrophy, some type of traumatic brain injury, quadriplegic, paraplegics, some type of autosomal deletion or chromosomal abnormality. That's going to be things like trisomy 21, Down syndrome, um, Angelman syndrome, Rett syndrome, wheelchair bound, and others. And others is just there are some out there that we just don't know what they are until we actually see them. Like just a few weeks ago, I got a diagnosis where it was only 250 people in the world had this, and this particular child had it. I was clueless to it. So, but these are some of the more common ones that I see quite often, particularly like hydrocephalus, cerebral palsy, um, the chromosomal abnormalities. It just all depends. But so a lot of those, and then also if they're wheelchair bound, if they're in a wheelchair, um, more than likely they're going to be a good candidate to apply for this particular program. To be compensated for personal care as the parent, the types of things that you would be doing as a parent are really the things that you're already doing at home anyway. Things like making sure that the child gets fed, getting them dressed for school, or just getting them dressed on a daily basis, making sure that they get to the bathroom to use the bathroom, taking a bath, grooming, getting in and out of the bed, and just doing the daily things that they would just need to do on a regular basis. And so that's considered unskilled nursing care. And that's what a parent can actually get paid to do. So if the parent is approved, I mean, not the parent, if the child is approved for personal care support, that will allow the parent to be able to do these particular types of activities. Now, however, if the child's medical necessity causes for the child to receive skilled nursing care, that must be provided by a professionally trained registered nurse or a licensed practical nurse only. A parent cannot get paid If your child is having seizures or has a G tube or a button tube, has a trach, um, and things of that nature. Those are some of the more common things that I see. And this is not all inclusive, but if the child requires skilled nursing care, just know that the parent, or the parent is not going to be able to get paid for that. Now, what I also see at times is where a child may qualify for skilled nursing care and personal care support. So they're receiving both. Um, and so what I suggest to parents, if you get both or if you qualify for both, do not turn down anything that's offered to you, because the next go around, maybe when you actually really want it, you know, everyone knows the term use it or lose it. This is no different. So if it's offered to you, take it. Um, and that's including even the skilled nursing care. I often hear with parents, I just want to get paid. Well, even if you are going to get paid, you still have to have a nurse come in to do supervisory visits with you at your house. Because basically, in order to become a paid parent caregiver, literally you are becoming an employee of the agency, just like the nurse. You're going to go through the same application process. You're going to go through the same background and fingerprinting process, even though it's your child. You still have to do that. Um, and it all has to check out, in good, good shape. So that's that for skilled nursing care. So what does the application process actually look like? The first step is to actually complete the online request form. This is how we do it at Home Logic Healthcare. And that online request form is basically, it's just a basic form, name, maybe a child's name, your email, phone number, um, and maybe some other information that may tell us a little bit more about the child. Typically, then you'll be followed up with a phone call, typically within about a day or two, and you'll have a phone call with one of our staff members, and you'll have a one-on-one conversation with them. Oftentimes, it may be me. I like to talk to the parents that I work with, and basically you tell me what your child is facing, what their condition is, just basically just in regular everyday words and language. Not it's not very medical terminology and things of that nature. So like, tell me what type of support does your child need? And oftentimes during that initial consultation call, I can tell you if your child will likely be a good applicant to go ahead and apply or not. Things that typically do not apply. If your child, for example, just has like autism, there are programs, or there are some agencies that will take your child in with just autism. Here at Home Logic, our children that have autism also have autism in addition to some of those other diagnoses that you saw on the screen, like cerebral palsy, hydrocephalus, epilepsy, things like that. So they have a combination of things where autism is just not the sole or the primary diagnosis. So once that online request has been submitted and that phone call has taken place, the next step is to submit your most recent progress notes from your most recent doctor's visit for your child, to try to to provide a good idea to the nurse of what's happening with your child. And so the nurse will actually review it, beforehand, before she meets with you. And then when she actually meets with you, which normally takes, at least 30 minutes, I would say, on average. And it's just, you know, like going to any other doctor's office, or, that conversation where she's going to ask you questions about your child. What is your child taking? Like, what type of problems are they having, and things of that nature. And so once that is done, that in-home assessment that she's conducting, once that is done, the team will basically have you to sign off on all the documents that the nurse has actually put together, because the nurse is going to put all of this together. She'll sign off on it. And when it's all ready to go, you will get to see it. And also, um, one of the last documents that we'll be getting is the physician's plan of treatment. That's a key document. That is basically the doctor's order prescribing that particular service for the child. And so typically the doctors, will complete that form, and they may request, let's just say, 28 personal care support hours for a child. Now, just because a doctor may request something, they don't always get what they ask for. Okay. And I've seen that time and time and time again, where even though they're a doctor, they don't get exactly what's being asked. Or sometimes they may request 40 hours, they may get 20, so to speak. So once that application is submitted and all documentation is in place, it generally takes about 30 days to get a response back from the Department of Community Health. 30 to 45. Right now, it's taking really more so closer to about 40 days to get a response. And during that response, you'll either get an approval that states what the child has been approved for, or a denial stating why they weren't approved. And if a child is denied, you can also appeal within 30 days. And even if you are approved, you can still can appeal, because I've also seen it where parents or children are approved and they feel like they didn't get what they deserve and they're requesting more. So that's also an option too. But if you go through that option, you have to, Home Logic doesn't assist you with that. We'll just guide you in the right direction of where you need to go to complete that. And that would need to be done within 30 days. The compensation structure, let's just say you've gone through that application process with Home Logic. Uh, Compensation structure is based on an hourly rate of pay. It's not a whole lot of money, but something is better than nothing. Um, and it's paid on a weekly basis. At Logic, we pay out every Friday, as long as your hours are in and everything is documented the way it needs to be. It's typically on a weekly basis every Friday, and you receive that payment direct deposit. For Home Logic, our current pay rate is at $15 an hour for parents. And it's a non-negotiable rate. It pretty much is what it is. I'm like, because it's not like we're going to a regular job interview and you negotiate your salary. This is not quite the same thing. Um, so common challenges in regards to going from being an unpaid to a paid caregiver. So some of the challenges that parents could possibly face in doing this is just balancing the caregiving and the administrative responsibilities. When I say administrative responsibilities, that goes to like clocking in and clocking out when you're supposed to. Um, we use an app, and that app, when you clock in and clock out, it has a geo tracking mechanism in it that it knows where you are. So, and you literally have to clock in at your house and clock out at your house. And if you're clocking in, at the grocery store or somewhere else where you're generally not supposed to be, or that it will draw a red flag. It just kind of creates problems. So I always just suggest and tell parents, like, if you are approved and get to go through the program, just make sure that you're logging in at a time when you are actually physically in your house with your child. And then also time management strategies. The parents knowing, well, when am I going to log in? Well, what I do is, and I actually was doing this actually early today, is like working with parents, and we work to schedule out uh, at least 2 to 4 weeks in advance. And so, why do you want to schedule that far out? Particularly if you have a nurse that's going to be assisting you, you want to have them to be knowledgeable and aware of what their weekly schedule is going to look like, because you don't want a nurse canceling on you, said, I can't make it, and vice versa. You don't want to have to always tell a nurse, oh, we're not home today, you don't have to come. Well, what would happen to you is you'll end up having a hard time getting a nurse that would even want to come to your house and work with you. So I tell the parents, you have to be really flexible. The nurses will work with you, but the parents also need to work with the nurses. Um, in order for the parents to get paid, there has to be a nurse that, at least does supervisory visits. Uh, if not just supervisory visits, you may have a nurse that may conduct maybe 4 hours or 8 hours a week of skilled nursing care. And in that situation, those nurses are basically, they're nurse educators. They're ensuring that you know how to effectively and use best practices for maybe cleaning an infection or doing a G tube properly and things of that nature, so that you actually know what you're doing and how you are supposed to do it. So they actually just teach you along the way. Then also with Home Logic, we supply a plethora of different just resources of support, different organizations and agencies that we're connected with and have knowledge of that we can maybe point you in direction to help you in other ways as well. Like, for example, if an 18-year-old child is graduating as a senior with a medically fragile condition, a lot of them will assume that they may not be able to go to college. Well, it is actually possible. So it's like, even, just knowing little extra things like that, we can kind of make you aware of, like, to let you know, hey, your child does have options too. Okay. Also, this is really big: legal and ethical considerations. So, what to expect as a paid parent caregiver: you must comply with state and federal laws. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Um, and if, so like I said, the parents are treated just like an employee. So you don't want to misuse or not be honest when clocking your hours and things of that nature, because what will happen at Home Logic, when we find out about it, it'll be a termination just like any other job. And, and so we just don't risk that. Um, So, so those are some of the ethical implications of being both a paid and parent caregiver. And then lastly, protecting the rights and well-being of your child, and just knowing what's available and just how to go about doing things the right way. Even like when I say protecting the rights, I mean, also I'm thinking of like a lot of these children. Matter of fact, most of them, if they're school age, they have IEPs, um, and just being aware of what is your child actually, what does your child actually have rights to? Prior to getting to healthcare, I was in education for over 20 years, sat in hundreds of IEP meetings, and can literally coach a parent through one from start to finish, questions they should be asking. Literally tell you. And at times, I'll tell parents, particularly I've heard where some parents at times, they are just fearful of going into the IEP meeting. And me personally, I just even extend it to myself. It's like, I will actually go to that meeting with you and sit. If sit if I need to, or provide you with some information along the way when you do get into that meeting. So you're asking the right questions. In regards to the IEP, because this program does require the IEP to be attached to that child's application. Now, we all know that an IEP is an educational document. Well, in this program, even though it's an educational document, it can kind of be looked at in other ways than its true intended purpose. So we'll review that as well to make sure that there's nothing in the child's IEP that can prohibit them from qualifying for something that they should qualify for. Okay. Um, and that's pretty much it. Additional benefits, support groups, respite care. I was just even talking with a parent just last week. It's like, hey, you've got these hours, you're working before your child even goes to school in the morning. You know, you don't have a lot of hours, but you can at least take the few hours that you do get to maybe just have you a nice break on Sunday evening or afternoon before your child has to get ready for school for the next day. And just kind of like offering those types of suggestions and supports to families is what we do at Home Logic. So, final thoughts and a recap of what I've been sharing with you tonight is that yes, you can be a paid parent caregiver while providing the best care for your child through the Georgia Pediatric Program. It is real. Um, it's a government program. There is no income limit, and there's about a 30-day approval time that you will have. So if your child fits these qualifications, your next steps will be to contact Home Logic Healthcare for personalized guidance, and basically you can get started on the application process today. If you have any questions, feel free to open up the floor for questions. And if you want to use the QR code, you can use your phone and just scan directly to go to the intake form and to just go ahead and start submitting. But maybe don't submit it just yet unless you know that you're for sure your child will likely qualify. Um, you know, or if you're not sure, you can just ask questions even now.
So here's a question. If you don't have Medicaid or Katie Beckett, what are the chances of you qualifying?
Zero.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. The only way you're going to qualify, either you have Medicaid or you have Katie Beckett. Um, Even if you have private insurance, you're not going to qualify, not through this, because they're going to opt for you to go through your private insurance.
Okay.
Um, are there any other questions?
Someone had asked in the chat earlier, but I guess you kind of touched on it. Is autism included? Um, I saw that
Mm.
in the chat.
It is included with Home Logic Healthcare. Autism is the clients that we take in, they have autism and something else in addition to. So like we typically work with very severely medically uh, challenged or fragile children. There are some agencies out there that may just work with autism only, but Home Logic is not one. We do autism plus something else.
So children with autism can qualify under GAP, just not with your particular agency.
Yes, I'm like that's a new thing. Probably within the last year or two, that became something that they brought autism into the GAPP program. And just from an agency standpoint, just from working in an agency, the state just doesn't support it as well as it should be. So it makes it hard and difficult for an agency to provide the support that they would like to, but if it's not supported, it's not really nothing that anyone could do. Um, but there are some agencies that may take just autism clients only. Are there any other questions? No. Is there
Well, I'm
anyone? Is there anyone in here that maybe may think that your child may qualify based off of what you're seeing or and heard, or have questions or doubts?
Potentially, my son might. He has a rare genetic mutation and a rare syndrome, and he's got a G tube, nonverbal. Um, we do shaky vest chest therapy. We're followed by a lot of doctors. But I am in the works of trying to. I'm waiting for a new evaluation so that we can apply for Katie Beckett. So
Okay.
we're not even there yet with the Katie Beckett. We wouldn't qualify for just straight
Medicaid.
Medicaid. We'd have to
Okay.
go the Katie Beckett route. So, but I so appreciate this and the information because it kind of helps me get an idea of like future steps and kind of
Yeah.
what has to happen first. There's just a lot of processes with a medically complex kiddo
Yeah.
and just the steps you have to take to kind
Right.
of get to a point to be able to take advantage of some of the stuff that's out there.
Right.
But there's just so many things that you don't, the average parent just doesn't know is available. So I appreciate you doing this to kind of talk about this program.
Okay. Well, thank you. What I would actually suggest to you, just based off of what you just said, go ahead and scan the QR code and just get in the system. And your particular case would be one what I would say is kind of like a wait and see. Um, I've actually got a few parents that are going through the exact same thing right now. And and I guess, and when I say that, I'm gonna go back to, you want to be a part of a community. And I've talked to several parents across the state, uh, similar to almost the same story every single time. Um, those with Medicaid, those with Katie Beckett, or those trying and applying to Katie Beckett. And so just being able to share tips and tricks of how to maneuver through the process as best you can. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Katie Beckett alone is so anxiety inducing. Just that
Yeah.
whole process is just like overwhelming at times.
okay,
So yeah, I hear you.
yeah, yeah. I'm like one of the recent parents that I talked to. They just actually just went out and hired somebody to help them get through it.
Yeah, yeah. I know. Those options are out there. And I'm happy for the people that are able to do that. We're just not in a place right now to be able to do that. So I know it's going to be like a thing we have to do. And, but now we're kind of in limbo waiting on a new evaluation so
Mm,
that we can have that,
yeah,
to be able to do
yeah.
that process. Yeah.
You know, I haven't personally, applied for that program myself, but I did meet a mother over the summer who she did it on her own.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, is what she
Yeah,
told me.
it's possible. It's just a lot. It's a lot, but
Yeah.
it is. And I think the common thing I hear is to, um, I don't want to say expect a denial your first time applying, but don't be surprised. And that typically, you have to do an appeal and kind of tweak it or, relook at what it could be that is preventing it or whatever. But
Mhm.
yeah, so yeah, it's a process, but we'll get there. We'll get there.
Okay. Very good. Anyone else? I don't think so. So, Isaiah, I guess I'll turn it back over to you if there aren't any more questions.
Okay. So let me.
And I'll just leave the screen up for now.
Okay. So we want to thank you for coming out and sharing this awesome information. Um, I am going to be posting this on our YouTube page, the Founders Project's YouTube page, if anybody is interested in sharing it or rewatching it. Um, Again, if you have any questions, feel free to email Aubrey or myself at thefoundersproject@gmail.com. And we're going to say good night.
Okay.
And thank you all for coming.
All right. Thank you.
Good
Thank you
night.
all for
Thank
coming out.
you.
Have a good night. Goodbye.